Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Welcome to researchmd.com. Today we got a great presentation. We're going to teach you everything about how to write a great case report. At the end of the presentation, you should know every single thing about great case report. Let me introduce myself. My name is Pramil Cheriyath. I'm a physician. I work as a program director, internal medicine residency program and a transitional residency program. And I hold 2 assistant professorships at 2 major universities. Now, I wanted to tell you something about a case report, or why is the significance, why should we write a case report? 2 years ago, I was reading the New York Times newspaper, and there was an article in there about a patient. This patient was 18-year-old, and she was admitted to Mass General Hospital with altered mental status. She was perfectly fine 2 days ago. All of a sudden, she developed this mental status changes, admitted to hospital. She was a Mass General with all this brain power, all the professors kind of working on. Day 1, day 2 go by, day 3 go by, MRI of the brain, LP, all of the tests were negative. Nobody could figure it out what was wrong with this patient. Fortunately for this patient, there was a medical student on the team. She went back to the library and she found a case report about an ovarian teratoma causing encephalitis in young females causing mental status changes. So she knew this patient had a CT scan. On the CT scan, there was like a small tumor on the ovary. So she printed that case report up and talked to the professors and convinced the professor to do a laparoscopic operation to take the ovarian teratoma removed. 2 days later, patient was completely back to normal and she walked out of the hospital without any help. Okay? So those are the things, when you talk about case report, it's very, very important to report new cases. Okay? You can write a case report about a new disease. If you look back the history of HIV, it was initially written as a Kaposi sarcoma case report, and then all the research came in, and then finally discovery of HIV. Anytime you see a case, there was a beneficial effects of a treatment or even a complication of a medication, you can kind of report it. If there is challenging and differential diagnosis, I remember publishing a case report about a patient with syphilitic arthritis, had arthritic type of pain, went into the orthopedic doctor, but orthopedic doctor was not able to diagnose what was going on. Finally came to an internal medicine doctor and they ordered, they knew some suspicions for syphilis and the patient had syphilis. So we wrote it as like an unusual presentation of syphilitic arthritis, okay? And above all, it will help you in your career. I work with sometimes medical students, even college students want to go into medical school. Any type of career you do, the more scholarly activities you do, you will reach your goal really fast. Okay? People always ask me, how do I find a great case report? The best place is always find your mentor and ask them, do you have a great case? I can write it up. Or walk into the ICU, ask the attendings, like, hey, if there anything, I could write it up. Or go to the floor, or even in the ambulatory settings in a private practice and ask the physician, say, you have something in an interesting case, I can write it up, okay? So before even we start writing a case report, very, very important to protect the patient's privacy. That means you get the consent of the patient. If the patient expired, make sure you get a consent from the family, okay? No photography, and use all identification markers. I'm going to tell you a story which is kind of a little bit scary. Happened like 3-4 years ago. A case report was written in the hospital and they published it. But one of the employees who was working over there was related to the patient, and she found out this was published. And then she made a big deal about it, and then it was like a lot of complaint filed against the hospital, and you don't want to be in a situations like that. And always worry about the HIPAA. You could get into a lot of trouble. So always get the patient consent, okay? So what are the parts like? I mean, we're going to go through small, I mean, every details of a case report. You have a title, you have an abstract, you got a background, you got a case and your discussion, and then you put your references. Okay. So before, I mean, once you have the case, you know, you wanted to go back and do literature review. You want to know, if somebody else published this before, how many cases out there? I mean, I usually do like a PubMed, Google Scholar. You can do any of the search engine available, scientific research, okay? And the title, I mean, then, okay, the first one, the first part of it is the title. It has to be catchy. It has to be innovative, it has to be relevant, and above all, it has to be Google friendly. You know, everybody's searching for Google, then they can pull it up. An example, I remember a case we wrote a few years ago about a person overseas came in here. They had a tradition of like putting the statue in water and drinking that water, and the whole family got, even the kids got like heavy metallic poisoning, and we wrote the case, don't drink your mother's Kool-Aid. Okay, background. The first part is the background. It has to be concise. I usually recommend writing like one paragraph. It has to be interesting. Why is it interesting to your reader? Do the previous literature. How many cases were published before? You look at the prevalence and the incidence of the case, and then you write it down. Be present a case of 45-year-old has with this presentation. Okay, the next part of the part of the presentation is about the case. You have to be chronological. That means just like how do you do a history and physical? Start with the presentation. Put the relevant history, positive and the negative relevant points, okay? Put the presenting complaint. Make sure the relevant history is there. Make sure always put the vital signs and always the units. You know, if it is blood pressure, mmHg, respirations per minute, heart rate, 60 beats per minute. And even in the labs, don't write WBC 14,000, you know, writing down the units. And then you look at the course of action, you put it in there. What did they do? What investigation did they do? How did they diagnose it? How did they treat it? Above all, and the last thing is the outcome. Most of the people, they forgot about the outcome. They never put it, but it's very, very important. What happened to the patient? Is the patient alive or something happened to him? So make sure you always put that in there, okay? The next part, the most important part, this is what is going to take your time. Discussion. You need to compare and contrast the case report with the literature review, explain or justify the similarities, and always try to look for the causal relationship and summarize the salient features and justify your uniqueness of the case, okay? Just take your time. This is where the money is. Now, and then I will put a conclusion. What is the take-home message for your reader need to know from it, okay? Just one small paragraph. The take-home message, what's the key point? As a clinician, what do we need to know? What did I learn? What do I need to be worrying about it, okay? And the references, always, I mean, I would not put more than 6 or 7 because it's a case report. A lot of magazines have a problem if you have like 15 or 16 references. Check with the journal first, like what type of references they want. Only the relevant. Software, you can use the software like EndNote. Each journal have different requirement. Most of the time they use the Vancouver style. So what you can do is like, you know, the number 1 is the reference number, and the number 2 you put the authors, then the title and the subtitle, okay? That's the way to do it. The next thing, publishing. Sometimes it's very hard to publish a case report, okay? But if it is a very good one, you get published in the BMJ case report, that's the best thing. There's some other magazines are there, you know, they might charge you a little bit of money, but it's worth spending it. But make sure they are PubMed indexed, otherwise I would not publish anywhere, okay? Make sure you check that, because a lot of magazines out there charge you money and they publish it, they're not PubMed indexed, so be careful. I would not publish anywhere where it's not PubMed indexed, okay? And time management. The most, you know, I've been to research for like so much, I mean, so long time. What do I see in people? They always, you know, they have a case report. They kind of postpone it, like procrastinate it, okay? It will not reach you. It will not get you anywhere. So what I would recommend is, like, go to Google, search for this chart called Gantt chart. Okay, it's a Google spreadsheet. You can kind of put it in. This is what I'm going to do first week. This is what I'm going to do second week. This is what I'm going to do the third week, and when I'm going to finish it. Everything, and put it on the wall so you can take a look at it. Am I meeting my deadline? So don't procrastinate. Winners don't procrastinate. Okay, right? Okay. So we got like some case reports which I wrote it down over there, and thank you very much. So how was my presentation? So listen to that. You get criticism always in life, okay? But don't worry about criticism. You go and write your case report and finish it up. The more you write, the more you're going to get better at it, okay? Quantity is also important. That will lead to quality. We are humans, so always remember that, okay? Thank you very much.